So there's a few different routes you can take. I think the biggest one is first just the education side of it and educating people on, okay, if you've been keto for a long time, your body is not used to carbohydrates, right? You've kind of put that carbohydrate metabolism machinery on hold because your body hasn't needed it, right? So it's adapted to not producing the enzymes that it needs to really optimize the metabolism of carbs and use them in your muscles and things like that. And it's the opposite side too, right? If you've never run on fat or ketones, your body is not primed for that because it's never, actually, fun fact is everybody is born with in a ketogenic state, right? Because as a baby, you're having your mom's breast milk or whatever, or even formula is high fat, right? So you are really in that state, but then most people transition off of that, right, for a while. So anyway, just those are kind of some things to think about. But like I said, first part is education, and then also realizing that carbs, right? So carbs they come with water, right? So when you consume carbs, you are probably, especially if you haven't consumed in a while, you're probably going to see the scale go up the next day, for example, because carbs hold on to water. So I think it's like 3 to 4 grams of water per gram of carb. So that in itself is just like, okay, if you know that, like going into it, you're like, okay, I'm consuming carbs, so I know my body's going to hold on to some more water. That's normal. That's a normal part of it. So that's just one piece of it when people are kind of scared of like, oh, I woke up and gained 4 pounds or whatever it may be. Yeah. So it's just water, right? You didn't gain 4 pounds of fat overnight. That'd be very, very hard. Pretty much impossible. So when we're introducing carbs, first is like the psychological side of it and just being educated on that so you know what to expect. The second thing I would say, like in terms of when you're going to introduce the carbs, I typically like to start, if you are someone who's working out, pre or post workout, and use it because we know that around your workout is when you're going to utilize those carbs to the best degree, right? Because our muscles are, especially post workout, very insulin sensitive, so it kind of soak up those carbs. However, if you are chronically keto for a while, it's going to take some time for your body to start to produce those enzymes again to the best degree to be able to utilize those carbohydrates. So some of it does just take time, right? So taking like maybe a week or 2 weeks to kind of turn that machinery back on, right? And so I would say that's probably another side of the education piece of it. But around your workouts would be where I would start because that's probably going to be most advantageous. Pre-workout giving you a little boost of energy. Post-workout we know that cortisol and insulin are opposing. So if you can spike insulin with carbs, that can actually bring cortisol down. And that's something that we would want post-workout to get you into that rest and digest and recovery state. That's just one piece of it. So that's where I would start there. If you're someone who doesn't work out and you are just looking to reincorporate carbs, sometimes at nighttime, so that you are kind of throughout the day, you're still more in that low carb state. And then at night, when you're trying to wind down, it can be advantageous to have a bolus of carbs because that can help with producing some of those neurotransmitters, some of those hormones, serotonin, kind of calm you down. Those are probably the two places that I would start. So pre and post workout and or nighttime. When we're talking about carbs, just when we're starting to reintroduce them, I definitely would recommend having them with some protein or fats to kind of slow that response, because we don't want to just go from no carbs to just like eating a ton of carbs without any other fats or proteins, because that's just going to cause blood sugar to go crazy. So you definitely want to consume them. We kind of say like no naked carbs, just not having carbs on their own. It's not that it's like quote unquote bad, but it's probably more advantageous to help with that blood sugar response and to kind of keep it from going too high. And then also we know that when it goes too high, that's when it can crash and come too low. So it's really just kind of managing that balance. But with types of carbs, I mean, I always advocate, especially if you're just reintroducing carbs, whole foods, right? So focusing on, I always say, has it grown from the earth at some point, or did it have a face at some point? That should really be like the majority of your diet in general, right? So if it had a face at some point, it was an animal, or it was maybe like eggs that came from an animal, or even dairy that came from an animal, and then grew from the earth at some point would be, your vegetables, your fruits, things like that. That should really just make up the majority. If you look at your overall diet, like if the majority of it is that, then you're probably doing something pretty good, right? So with carbs, like, just introducing, obviously veggies are going to already probably be in there, so the non-starchy veggies. So bringing some starchier veggies in, so things like maybe some winter squash to start off with, like sweet potatoes, fruit. Those are kind of the general starting points. And then, like, if you are to a point where you do want to start to, get back into enjoying some treats once in a while, like having maybe some more processed carbs, and that's what you want to do for your lifestyle, and you want to go, to an event and have, I don't know, a piece of cake or something, it's like, that's okay.